All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Shifter Show, brought to you by Elite Mototech. Absolutely guaranteed to make a change in your ride. 30% easier pull. Elite Mototech's easy pull levers. Use code SHIFTERCREW at checkout. Also super excited to announce our partnership with Law Tigers. If you or somebody that you know has been hurt or injured in a motorcycle accident, call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS. And today, we got Austin. What's up, dude?
What's up, buddy?
You got to put it a little closer to your mouth.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I've done this a time or two.
Just a couple, man. I don't know. You got me in like a toddler chair over here.
I'm sorry, man. It's a little short. I tried to offer you the big boy chair, but
it's
you didn't
okay.
want
I
it.
gave you short notice. You gave me a short chair. It works out. It's fair.
That's fair. Dude, we've been talking about doing this for a while.
Yeah, for a little bit there.
Yeah. I think right around the time that I started doing the podcast, you were like, dude, I'll be in town. And we were trying to make it kind of link up.
Yeah.
Because you were up there doing the Biltwell race, right?
Yeah. So I brought the Dyna I put together to race in the Biltwell. So that was a lot of fun.
I didn't realize you raced a Dyna in that.
Yeah. Yeah. There was two big twins that were out there at the race, aside from like the Pan Ams that were out there. And I know you got a soft spot for the Pan Ams these days.
I do like the Pan Am.
I do too. I think they're pretty slick. But they could use some work, I think, as cosmetics are concerned for, I don't know. You can make it look cooler.
Yeah.
It's functionality is right there. But
for me, the thing with the Pan Am is when they first announced that they were going to do it, I was like, Harley's got no fucking business being involved in this. This is going to be a failure. I was convinced. And I ate those words pretty aggressively, I think.
I mean, they're jumping into something that's unfamiliar in a lot of ways to them, which was good. But I think, well, let's give it a couple more years, see what happens with the market, see what happens with bikes, see what happens with technology, see what happens with the Rev Max. Let's see what happens, you know?
Yep.
I don't think we can just, discredit it right off the rip for the first couple of years that it's been out. I think we need to really see what they can do with the platform before we say, all right, that was fun while it lasted. Let's do something different. Forever. Yeah. But yeah, no, the Biltwell 100, I was out there on a 2000 FXD. So that was...
Holy shit, dude.
That was wild. Yeah, we're talking like 14 inches, like frame to ground clearance with like 12 inches of travel in the front, like a bunch of crazy stuff. There was another buddy out there that has a FXR that he was running, Tyler Flight. Yeah, he runs a FXR through the Biltwell 100 and just
holy shit. And he does it every year?
Like just gets it.
Wow.
Yeah. Most of the guys were out there on like Sportsters and stuff like that. I picked up a old rigid frame Sportster here, so I can do a more ergonomic.
You fuck around a little bit more.
I can have a little bit more fun because the dyno is great for straight lines, and especially in the dirt, like grabbing those straight lines and those tracks and just running them down the wash. I'll smoke you. But when it comes to any kind of turning or sand or anything, you're going straight to the ground. So,
you have a problem.
Yeah, you got 640 pounds just tossing around, and you got it lifted so high that the ergonomics of the bike are so different. Like originally I had snowmobile shocks on this thing.
Oh.
So we're like 16 and a quarter inch shocks on the rear on a dyno, which was pretty aggressive. So
right.
I toned it down and went down to 14 and a halves with a 1 inch block. So
Jesus, dude.
It was still quite like getting the chain to clear on the swing arm, because I just used a stock swing arm. Yeah, that was it took a little bit of math to make that all work.
Where did you come up with I don't want to say the desire to do that, but the idea to do that? Were you just like, well, let's see how this goes?
So I wanted to do the Biltwell 100. I had watched, last couple of years, some buddies doing it, and I'm like, man, that looks like a lot of fun. Like, I want to go do that just to say I could do it, you know, on something that like a bike I put together myself to go race that. And that was like, just sat in my mind for a while, and I hit a lull with the All-American FXR project. We'll talk about that in a bit, but I kind of hit like a lull in that project where I was waiting on some stuff. I was waiting to go back east to go pick up more stuff. I had just done a huge West Coast tour and grabbed a bunch of things, And I was just kind of sitting there. And so I did what any reasonable individual that is obsessed with motorcycles does. And I got on Facebook Marketplace, and that turned into late nights on Coparts.
Yep.
And early mornings with Coparts, bidding on every Sportster that I could see that was coming across the thing. And it turned out that like none of the Sportsters I was winning. Like, and I didn't want to spend too much money. My whole idea for the project was like, create a bike that I could go race and participate in the Biltwell 100 for less than $5,000, you know? And it was kind of like why I did the box truck the way I did it.
Right.
We could go out and grab a $150,000 Sprinter van and go do this, but that's not tangible or reasonable for most people to go do, you know?
That's a house in the
exactly.
Midwest.
I've spent a house on this FXR project, you know? And yeah, so like I like to do things that make it more realistic for just everybody to go do, you know, even the guy still working the 9 to 5 and not the crazy guy like me that's just like, screw it, I'm out. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of how it started. And I kept bidding on Sportsters, kept getting outbid. And I was just like, screw it. This 2000 FXD was coming up and I'm like, I'm gonna go for it, see what happens. And this thing, like it was toast.
Yeah.
Like it was complete loss, totaled out bike. And I got it for
salvage title, the whole thing.
Yeah, I got it delivered to the house I was staying at, including the bike, for $1,500.
Oh my God. Where was it from?
I don't know. It was just on Coparts and it was in the Phoenix lot. So I just bid on it and got it. And like I was the only one bidding too.
Holy
like nobody
shit.
else was bidding.
Yeah, you're over there outbidding yourself.
Yeah, I was like, what? Wait a second.
Dude,
I just double bid.
We don't want that bike.
Yeah, exactly. No, that was more or less how I ended up with the dyno. Otherwise, I would have done a Sportster like most of the other guys, just because it's been tried and true. And I mean, Harley's been in the dirt since 1903, you know?
I mean, that was the thing back in the day, the Sportster, and it still is. Like, you go to flat track races, and you still see a lot of guys out there on Sporties. Like, it can do it. I mean, in 2024, I don't know if it's the most efficient, but it's cool. you know?
Well, they call it the hooligan class for a reason, 100%, right? You know, it's we're hooligans out there. You know, it was funny. The guys at the Biltwell 100, they had photographers throughout the entire course. And one of the funniest things was like because I had a mini thunderheader on this dyno. Okay. So you just hear this thunderheader roaring through the desert. Like,
everybody's like, what the fuck?
Everybody knew I was coming, and it was running super, super rich. So like that bike was rough. I lost my clutch at mile 13, so I was just dirty shifting the rest of the way.
Holy shit.
I lost my rear brakes at like mile 20, I think, and then front brakes just left the chat rail early. So I was doing no brakes, engine braking, like just holding on, hoping for the best, and trying not to get bucked off of it. So I only went down a couple of times, but I mean, unless you've done that course a million times and you've done it on a hooligan bike a million times, and not a million times, but you're familiar with it. Like I put that bike together in between doing this FXR project,
right,
in like a week and a half. Like I only worked on it for like 5 days, and that included like cutting the frame and welding it and putting that whole new seat pan together for it, just for a Saddleman seat, just because I was like, I like this seat. I'm gonna put this seat on there, you know. Yeah. But yeah, I did the whole project for like $4,800 or something like that.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah. And in a really short time, like the first photos that anybody saw of it that I like, you know, put out for everybody to kind of question, enjoy, laugh at.
Like, what the fuck's Austin doing?
You know, exactly. Like he's on a side quest now. What is he doing? But
I got a text about you yesterday because you showed up. We were having that meeting, and Jeff started texting me on the side, and he was like, "Fucking Austin, dude, everywhere and nowhere at the same time." Like,
for real, dude. Yeah,
to be there.
It's funny. Like I was just recently at the Indian Larry block party.
Okay,
that was absolutely awesome.
I've heard nothing but amazing things.
It for a 1-day event. Like I know you guys are planning one, and it's coming up soon, and like that one looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I briefed the GM, by the way, over there at that Harley. Well, you guys were all out of the office
yesterday when we went down to grab food.
Yeah, I briefed him and like I helped him move around some stuff.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
I came back because we've been in there for a while, and Gabe went and got Juan went and got lunch for everybody. Yeah. And then they're like, "Hey, food's here," and we'd been in there I've been there a couple hours at this point. So I was like, "All right, I'm gonna go downstairs and get food." And I come back, and you're like, "All right, man, GM's all up to speed on your plan." I was like, "Oh, Thank you.
Yeah, and that was funny because I had just shown up too.
He probably thinks you're the guy running the show.
Probably. I told it. He like looked at me and I was like, I'm not a decision maker. I got no skin in the game, dude. I was like, I'm just here I'm consultant today. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were offering some pretty welcome advice too with some of your suggestions you were making.
Well, it's just, things I've been to, Lord knows how many events over the last, 16, 17, 10 years. Yeah.
And it's one thing because you started saying a couple of things and I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah, I'm really glad you're here because you don't have, like you said, you didn't know that's what we were doing there. You just were like, hey, I'm here too. And I've realized that like going to events and trying to put on an event, it's two different things. You get tunnel vision real easy when you're trying to organize something because you're just like, I have all these vendors, I have these people, I need to figure out parking. The flow of traffic is completely not in my mind. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking about like utilizing the back of the building and you're like, hey, you guys should probably do that. And I was like, is everybody listening?
You should probably have some seating over there at that part of the parking lot because when I parked today, it was shaded and it'll probably be shaded by then, So like, those are just, I don't know.
Just little observations.
I'm a nerd though, man. Like I hyperfixate on things and I'm obsessive when it comes to like details and such.
It seems like some of the following I've done, some of the details you've had to come out with this FXR project have been, and I kind of a little backstory. I think I met you a couple years ago at Arizona Bike Week.
Yeah.
Like at our bike show, it was the first bike show we'd ever put on.
At Scottsdale Harley.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's where I met you. And then we didn't really keep in touch. We kind of I knew who you were. And then your video came out saying it was you in the back of a box truck. And you were like, well, check it out. This is what I'm doing. And I remember being like, holy shit, that's that dude from the bike show. This guy's out of his mind.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought I was out of my mind. I had some people really worried about me when I first started because I was just like, I couldn't sell stuff fast enough. Like I was closing on the house. Like I was walking away from everything. Like I already turned in my 2 weeks at work. Like
where were you working at?
Deloitte and Touche. I was doing consulting work for them. So like I had my MBA and everything else. Like,
oh no shit.
Yeah, I'm kind of like I said, I'm a
nerd.
Dude. Yeah.
All right.
Like, and by no means am I an FXR expert or a bike mechanic. I work on my own stuff. I'm more of a, what's a good word for it? I'm more of a motardist.
Okay. No, I get that.
Kind of dumb about motorcycles, but I'm a little bit of an artist. So
and you're passionate about it.
Yeah, it's fun for me,
Right.
And I'm also like, I know the FXR project's like all American. But like, I can't wait to use like Rubifini and, Brembo brakes and M units for the FXR guys. They know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I can't wait to use these kinds of products again because the American alternative just can't compete with it. Yeah. And like the next projects will have a little bit more leeway and freedom. There'll still be, so I have this strong belief as like a creative. Rick Rubin wrote about it in one of his most recent books. And it's kind of like, the artist needs to put themselves into a box to be the most creative.
Okay.
Because when you have every option and every possible way to go about something, or you have unlimited access to your creative freedom as far as which direction you want to go, you actually get a little overwhelmed with how you want to approach it. Versus when you create these restrictions, you have to get even more creative and it actually focuses it. Like with the Dyna, I had a $5,000 budget for it. So I had to figure out, okay, how do I do this? And then on top of that, I was just like, and they have to be used parts. Like,
right.
Which was even harder.
So with the FXR build, because you have these guidelines, you're fixated on it being this one goal. You have these guidelines you can't waive at all. And I remember seeing something like, you made a post one time, and this was months and months ago, but you were saying like, this is the level that I'm taking it with all American made. Like, and you're talking about the oils. And then I remember your post about the tires, and I was like, fuck, I wouldn't have even thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah, like any rubber component, like the trees which we source rubber from, it doesn't grow in an American climate. So not in a North American climate anyways.
So how did you...
That's just that. So there was always the idea that consumables was going to be something that was a negotiable in the project, just simply because. Well, yeah, but simply because if I'm on the road and I'm out there on a 2,000-3,000 mile trip that I'm taking, Like if I'm doing, like, let's say a Triple Crown next year, do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, so you go to the East Coast FXR Jam, the West Coast FXR Jam, and then the FXR show in Sturgis.
Okay.
And you have to do it all in 1 year on one bike.
I've heard of this. Okay. Somebody I know recently did this, and I was like, I don't know what it is. Like, I think Triple Crown, I think of like the horse racing.
Yeah. No, it's pretty much just a whole hell of a lot of riding on really old bikes, you know? And so, like, doing something like that, let's say I'm out on the road, am I carrying triples, doubles of bearings, of bolts, of, you know, of Lord knows what else, gaskets, oil filters? Am I carrying jugs of oil with me? Am I carrying spark plugs with me? Am I carrying extra tires with me? You know, It's just like, because I might be in Podunk, Oklahoma, and that's not an option.
Right.
You know, I have to run whatever they have. And so, like, the consumables was always something that I was kind of a little more reasonable with myself about, as far as like giving myself some room for that to be adjustable. So I ended up going with Korean made tires. I went with the Shinkos.
Okay.
But that fit the wheelbase that I'm running on the bike and everything else. And it just kind of fit more of the needs that I had.
It's a sticky tire.
It's a good, it's a good,
I like it.
I'm not running the 777. I'm running the touring one.
The 999.
I think so.
That's what I'm running.
Okay.
And I'd always sworn off of Shinkos. Like, I was American Elites, Commander 3s for a long time. And I have a tire guy out here that I specifically go to. Super OG Coyote. Anybody that's listening around here is going to know who he is. He's probably 70 years old. And I swear to God, dude, it feels different when Coyote puts a tire on. And he was like, Taylor, I'm telling you, these Shinkos, everybody swears by him. And I'm like, I'm not putting a Shinko on. He's like, I'm telling you, try them out. And I did, and I have no complaints, dude. Like,
it depends on the application. You know, like, I plan on absolutely abusing this bike once it's done. And like, there's no turn signals on it. There's no hand control buttons. The gauges probably won't even work because the adapters that I need to be able to even run my gauges aren't made in America.
Holy
like
shit.
Even yesterday, like when I ran into you guys over at the dealership, like I had just left a company that had told me multiple times on the phone that their product was made here in America. And then I show up and I start, you know, kind of asking some questions. And it's just like, hey, you know, you make this here? And they're like, yeah, we got a guy, you know, we make it all in-house, blah, 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 blah. And then the story changed 5 minutes later. It's like, oh, we got a guy down the road that does all the machining for us. And then it's like, oh, yeah, we buy that mesh and we press it and we turn it into this and stuff. And I'm like, your story's not adding up. And so, like, the one question I asked, and I knew it wasn't what they were saying it was, can I see the shop? And he's just like, no, everybody's out at lunch right now. That shouldn't fucking matter. Mm-hmm. If you're proud of the product you're making and you're being honest about it, you would have no problem in showing me. I'm not out there taking photos of your secret sauce, you know?
Yeah, no.
That's not what I'm doing. I just need to verify. And I could not in good conscience leave that place yesterday with that product, knowing that it was made here in the US of A. So it's not going on that project. And that's like one of those things that, like, I drove all the way to California to
That's
get
what I was going to say.
man.
Was that why you made the trip out here? Was to see them?
No, so I have to give a huge shout out to the American Suspension guys, Russ and Fernando.
I've been seeing them.
Absolutely amazing dudes to work with. They have been nothing but accommodating to this project, supportive of this project. I think Fernando's more excited about the project than I am at this point, just because I'm a little tired, you know. But those guys have been fantastic to work with. Originally, I had Legends on the rear of this bike.
Okay.
And Russ called me one day and was just like,
what are we doing?
We want to do these instead? So I was just like, you know what? Let's give it a go. And it was right after my American flag rant that I went on for those couple of days. Did you see that one?
I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, and it was about flag code and how the flag should be displayed. And people were telling me that my side cover on the FXR was like backwards, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's displayed correctly, and like it was a huge ordeal.
I thought it was displayed backwards, like going forward.
Yeah, and it's like per the flag code, I had everything correct.
Yeah.
So
you seem like you know what you're talking about.
I do. I mean, I've done for the FXR project alone, I've done thousands of hours of research, and so it was funny. Last night, I finally had some time to just like chill and kind of digest the day, and I went back and started looking into that company and found their father company and started digging into it and found all the import records and realized like, yep, all of that is exactly not what he said it was. And I'm like, man, that sucks.
It's a bummer.
And like, I'm not knocking the guy, but just be honest, you know, like if he would have told me just straight up, oh no, we get most of our stuff imported, you know, I would have been like, all right, appreciate the time. Like,
yep.
I like the product. Best of luck to you. Like, I'll see you later. You know, like I'm not trying to destroy people's livelihoods.
Yeah. You might have gone to him for another project that you work on.
Exactly. Now I'm never coming back, you know? And like, that's the thing is like, if you're lying about this, what else are you lying about? So like that just tarnished the relationship period. Like I'm just not going to run their parts ever now.
Right.
Which is a bummer because some of the parts I was like, well, what? This could be really useful on some projects, you know, but
there's a reason you went there, obviously.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
So now it's just it's a pivot and just change of direction. So, but I originally came out here for American Suspension.
Okay. Where are they out of?
They are out of Anaheim, California.
Okay. I've been seeing them around. So when you said it, I haven't heard a lot about them, but I saw them at Born Free. I think I saw them at San Diego Harley one time. Probably. I've started to see them and I've been curious.
They were just at the Tahoe show too.
Were they? Up in Street Vibes or
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been seeing them around. So then you saying, I'm like, oh yeah, all right, we're putting those together.
They've historically been in like the air ride, big wheel bagger kind of stuff. Like I'm running a 49 millimeter front end on this FXR. So it's a little bit beefier than normal, but it also houses their dual front disc braking with 6 pistons each side. And I'm like, well, that's a hell of a lot of stopping power because I'm putting a heck of an engine into this bike too.
What are you putting in it?
I'm putting a 120 cubic inch with a OD6 Baker.
Okay.
Just to even out. So, and a FXR it's an Evo too. So that's the nice thing. It's going to run a little toasty. But it's going to, like this bike is 100% performance.
Yeah.
Like the only thing, like I laugh at it now just because it's like, that was the option I had. My taillight's from like 1970 something. So I had to get American-made filament for my 3D printer so that I could print a base plate for it so that I could adapt it to fit on the FXR. And there's still a light bulb in it that you can screw in.
Dude, that's fucking cool, man.
But like, that's how crazy it is. But of course, the front's like got a Baja LP6 in the front, you know, or no, an LP4.
Okay. Yeah, LP6 would be big.
So that's made here. And it's like, okay, cool. You know, it's just, it's bonkers, like how far down the rabbit hole you can go and like to what level of insanity do you want to go? You know, I've talked about it before is like, depending on how deep you want to go, like the crazier you start to sound, because then you're like looking at like, okay, well, where is your material from? Where is your machines from?
That was kind of what I was wondering. Like, where are they sourcing this material from? Is that a factor? I don't know. I don't know.
So there, most of the guys that are doing like 6061 T aluminum and stuff like that are getting American made aluminum.
Okay.
The steel is where you start having issues.
Okay.
And that goes all the way back into like the 80s when American steel started to they were insourcing more than anything, and American steel manufacturers were starting to go out of business here. And that was all political. That was a political move during the presidency back then, that they were pushing for more importation, and it started pushing a lot of the American manufacturing out.
Right.
And then you can trace that all the way up into like the mid 2000s when we started to go into the 06, 07, 09, 08, 09, like economic hardships. Yeah, the recession. And you just see almost all these manufacturers just getting wiped out overnight. And like, so if you see a company that's been manufacturing or is open and they've been around for 20, 30 years,
they got their shit together.
They held it together during some really tough times, you know, or made enough changes business wise to stay alive, you know? So.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah. Like you can get real crazy with it, but yeah, for the most part, everybody that and that's why it's so important to me to come and shake the hands and meet the people and talk to the manufacturers, because now I get a real feel for your honesty on the product, because I couldn't find any information online until I found until I started tracing LLCs all the way up to the top one, and then started searching import records per each one of those, and then finding that stuff. And like, I mean, you can get a little crazy doing stuff like that, but
and there's so much layering now. Like every LLC is owned by another LLC is owned by another LLC. Like you're going down the rabbit hole just to find out who owns this company.
yeah. And that was just because one guy lied to me.
Yep.
You know?
And that's the whole point of what you're doing. You're trying to do an all American made. Like
it's
an honorable cause in its own right. So for
no other reason but just to do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
They're just, dude, that video that you made, it was pretty wild. You were like, so, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but you were like,
hi, I'm Austin.
Yeah, that's like essentially what it was. You're like, I'm going on the road. I'm going to build an all American FXR. Every single thing on this bike is going to be made in America. And I'm going to live out of this truck. And it was a box truck. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the box truck's gone, right?
Yeah.
Was that just ridiculously hard to travel with?
I was more so starting to piss off the HOA, but yeah, traveling in that thing sucked. Yeah. Traveling in the box truck was useful.
Okay.
You know, I had my lowrider S in the back, so I could offload and ride around when I wanted to. It made it easier to acquire parts. So like underneath the bed was just a stash of parts and a couple extra FXR frames that I found for real cheap on the road.
Just because I wanted them.
Because I'm on Facebook Marketplace in some town that I've never heard of. So, yeah, traveling in the box truck was like a little rough. I mean, there was no air conditioning, there was no heater.
Oh, shit.
So like going through Tennessee in the middle of winter was a little bit nippy.
Were you going through the mountains in that thing, dude?
Yeah.
I bet that was fun.
I mean, I came down where was I? I was coming down from Colorado. I had stopped in Denver and I was sitting out front of a Walmart eating like a cold can of SpaghettiOs on Thanksgiving. And I'm like, God. I kind of want to go back to Phoenix, you know, like I'm just kind of tired and bummed.
Like
and
Forrest Gump, I think I'll go home now.
Yeah. And it was just like, it was getting cold and I wasn't having a good time right then. And there was a lot of delays and there was a lot of disappointment. You know, I went to an icon in the industry and was expecting big things to move the project forward. And it ended up not being what I thought it was. And so I had to pivot and go another direction. And that was a big blow to the project right off the rip. Which was unfortunate. I thought the engine was going to be one of the last things that I was procuring, or one of the first things I was procuring and not the last thing. Like the engine was one of the last parts that I was picking up. So like the part yesterday that I was going to pick up from the guy that was dishonest about where it's actually manufactured, like that was a novelty thing to put on. Like it wasn't something that I was going out of my way. I already have a solution for it. I already have an American made product for it, but I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like I'm already in the area. Let's check it out. It looks a little bit better than the one I got. Like, let's see what's up with it. But yeah, that was a heavy blow right at the beginning, to kind of set the tone and expectations for this project. And it has been uphill, you know, 1 step forward, 6 steps back every single step of the way. Like I just took a perfectly good Baker OD6 apart to replace like a couple of the bearings in there with American made bearings, because almost every bearing that Harley has used, or most of the bearings that are just used in motorcycle parts in general, are either Japanese or German.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit. And Harley's got the reputation for being American made. I mean,
yeah. Well, American manufactured.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, that you can go all the way back to someone's going to correct me, but I think it was like 1965, they moved to the electric starters.
Okay.
And when they moved to the electric starter on Harleys, that's when the importing started.
Okay.
And then from there, just a little here, a little there. The AMF era was like a whole lot. Dude. It kept the motor company in business.
It kept them alive.
Kept them alive.
But there's a lot of horror stories.
You know, at what cost?
Yeah.
I think some of the AMF stuff was cool. I don't think we need boats. You know, they were producing boats at one point, or snowmobiles and stuff like that. It's kind of funny, but
we're still trying to get people to accept the Pan Am.
You know, baby steps, man.
Baby steps.
But yeah, like you can, to try and do an all-American bike, I kind of figured that it was either you have to be like, what's his name? Action 88 Jackson.
Jackson, yeah.
Where you're doing just straight up frame up absolutely everything,
Yep.
making it.
Yep. And he put a FXR, he put a Pan Am motor in an FXR, didn't he?
Yeah.
Fucking wild. Like
he's one of my favorite people to watch as far as like the craftsmanship that goes into some of
he's
his
like,
projects.
yeah, it'll fit.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Dude. No, I got an M8 powertrain out of a Road Glide sitting in the garage right now. And I know you guys have seen the FXR frame sitting on the shelf. So I've been talking to the guys over at FXR Division a lot about that project. So
Those guys got it going on over there, dude.
they got it down to a science.
They got it going on over there.
It's a science for them now.
I love seeing them at Born Free every year.
Oh,
they've always got something. Like
the most recent one that they did, that like root beer colored police.
Yep.
Oh man.
They got it going on over there.
That was
dude.
monoshocked and everything. I'm
Yep.
just like, holy smoke. Like
Yep.
that's the level I aspire to get to one day. I don't consider myself a builder though. Again, I'm more of a motardist. You know?
I'm going to take that term.
I'm an idiot that just likes motorcycles and is kind of an artist.
You
You
need
know,
to put that on a shirt and fund this build.
Probably,
people
dude.
I'm telling you, put that on a shirt, dude. People would buy that.
maybe that's how I get rid of this low rider ass.
I'm not a mechanic. I'm a motardist.
I'm not a mechanic. I'm a motardist.
Yeah, people would love that, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck. So you up and left, bro.
Yeah.
You were like, no more job. You said you sold the house.
I sold everything. Yeah.
What was that like?
Liberating.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah. I mean,
That's such a wow. That's like a powerful way for you to just explain that. Liberating.
yeah, I found early into the project and living out of the box truck that the less stuff I had, the more room for peace I found in my life. Mm-hmm. And of course, now I feel very pack radish in a lot of ways because I just got bins and bins of motorcycle parts, but
Right.
It's a different kind of things, you know. It's just when I quit my job and listed the house for sale, I did it the other way around, but I made sure I had a good offer on the house. But I mean, my house was on the market for 17 hours and I was under contract.
Holy shit.
For asking. I timed it perfect. I kind of saw the direction things were heading. And I was just like, if I don't do it now, when will I ever?
Right.
And I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. And that makes it easier in some way. Mm-hmm. If I did, I probably still would have done this. It would have just been different, you know?
Would have been out of a trailer and not out of...
Yeah, I probably would have done a toy hauler instead of a box truck or a school bus, you know, or something different. I don't think it would have changed the decision. I was pretty settled into the idea of like, this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And the idea for the All-American wasn't originally the first and only plan for this. It was, I wanted to hit the road and put a bike together. Mm-hmm. And then as I thought about it more, I was just like,
how can I make this harder on myself?
Exactly. You know, I need something to keep my mind occupied while I'm driving, you know? No, it was more so, I'm about to go see America. Why not do just American parts?
Yeah.
I was so naive to the idea of like how hard this was actually going to be.
Fuck.
But to leave everything and just set off on the road, extremely liberating. Mm-hmm. I don't recommend anybody building all American anything because it's just very, very difficult and frustrating. And especially if there's zero room for like any room for compromise. Gotcha. But I mean, maybe that's just me being just extreme about it. But
I mean, it seems like you're just sticking to what you said you were going to do. And you took on a challenge that has turned out to be a fucking challenge and you're sticking to it.
It's fun.
You know? Is it?
Some days I fucking hate motorcycles, dude.
Yeah.
Some days I can't stand to look at them, you know.
We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Like when I came back from Sturgis, rode to Sturgis, worked for 2 weeks, rode home. I didn't look at my bike for like a week. I was like, I don't even want to fucking think about this right now. Like, get me away from motorcycles. That's your whole life, man. That's like what you're doing.
I don't make any money at it either.
No.
You know, like I make no money doing this. Like I'm still living off of the house and the savings that I had and everything else. Like I made really good money at my last job. But I mean, when you liquidate your entire existence, you'd be surprised how much money is just laying around, you know?
And like you're probably investing and making some money and
I've taken no paychecks the entire time.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Like I've been pretty smart about it. That's why I've been, sell stuff here and there just to, if I want something shiny that I didn't account for, then yeah, here you go. Like
right.
I'll sell
A little bargain here and
this
there.
or that,
Pick up an FXR frame in Tennessee, sell it in California.
Exactly, man. Like there's ways to like ensure that I can continue to do this. I mean, future plans is to move into manufacturing. Like,
Right.
I probably have 200 something designs for products just sitting in notebooks.
No shit.
Yeah.
So that's the thing along the lines you've probably learned, like, all right, this isn't ideal. This part could be better. Let me come up with a fix here kind of thing, or?
Some of it was that. A lot of it was being the American alternative.
Gotcha.
Because there's a lot, like finding out what's not made here and how limited my bike's going to be as far as certain functionalities of the bike. I wanted to create solutions that I could use and that other people could use too. So it's been a lot of R&D and development lately. And so like in my kind of down times, I've been focused on that. And then over the last year, just as I've been on the road, I have these ideas. I don't sleep very much. So being in the box truck, fighting off crackheads in the middle of Tennessee on like in the middle of January. So when I broke down, it was...
I was going to ask if you had any wild road stories.
Yeah. So there was a couple right off the rip. I was in Texas.
Okay.
And I was driving from Dripping Springs, Texas.
Gotcha.
Up to...
Oh shit, Dripping Springs.
Yeah.
One of my best friends is from there. It's a tiny ass town, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They call it Drinking Springs.
Oh, I don't blame them.
The locals do anyways.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's a bunch of wedding venues and like breweries.
It's like wineries and stuff out there, right?
I think so, yeah.
That's what he did. He was in the Navy with me and got out after 6 years, picked up a contracting gig, did that for a few years and bought a shit ton of property out in Dripping Springs.
Nice. It's probably worth a heck of a lot now, No, I was out there putting together the back patio for the box truck.
Okay. The back patio.
Which was also the ramp to get the bikes in, which was pretty fun. But I was heading up to Dallas Fort Worth.
Okay.
And I was going to see a buddy up there. And as we were heading up to, or as I've done this. I've done this entire trip solo.
Just throwing the we out.
That's me and all the voices in my head, man.
Me and all my insane thoughts telling me to do this.
Yeah, that one hit a little close to home.
Sorry, bro.
No,
my bad.
No, I was heading out there and I was having issues with the truck already, and I had just gotten into Texas, and so like I was heading through El Paso, and I was starting to have issues with the truck, and I was like, man, I don't know what's going on just yet. Like, I'm not super familiar with an E350's engine, and the Triton engine I know is notorious for throwing plugs and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, like maybe it's having some issues there. And I was like, I'll stop at the next chance I get and like swap out the fuel filter, the oil filter. What was it doing?
Just cutting out on you?
It was just really struggling. And I mean, I was already pushing it with the weight limit on that thing.
So you're like, there could be some external factors here.
Exactly. It definitely needed a new fuel filter and things like that. So that kind of helped to get those swapped out. And it worked a little bit better for a while. And while I was heading up to DFW, I was just like, maybe I won't take the freeway because I'm having a little bit, like it's struggling to keep up.
Okay.
And I was just like, if I can go 45, 50 on a side road, it's going to take me 3 times as long. But we'll get there.
And I don't know if I'm the way I am. Like if something starts to go wrong, I start coming up with every excuse in the world why it's not what I think it is. Does that make sense?
No, I approach it very logically. I'm like spark, air, fuel.
Yeah, it's one of these 3 things, but I always try to narrow it down to like, what's going to be the least big problem? That's what I always wanted. You know what I mean? I'm always like we're selling a vehicle right now and I found out I got a misfire on the number 2 cylinder. And I'm like, it's probably just a spark plug. Like, no, it's probably throwing a valve. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like,
there's probably bigger issues.
There's probably bigger fucking issues.
But yeah, so I was driving and it finally just stopped. And I'm in the middle of, I have no idea where. Like, I mean, nowhere. Like nobody drove past me for the 2.5 hours I was on the side of the road.
Oh, fuck.
It was raining. I'm just like on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. And there's just cows checking me out from this pasture. And I'm sitting there now taking my tap set to one of my sockets so I could create a spark plug puller so that I could pull spark plugs to replace them to get it going again.
Holy shit.
With no cell service, no nothing, like just in the middle of nowhere.
You're just out here.
Yeah. And so I ended up getting the truck moving just enough to limp it to this like real small town in, oh man, what was it called? I can't remember. I wrote about it in some of the blog posts that I was doing. I need to start catching up with those again. It's kind of boring though. It's just like, okay, now we have all the parts and I'm waiting. You know,
and now I'm waiting again.
Blog number 2 after that, still waiting, you know. But I was in this small little town and of course, like the mechanic was at the top of the biggest incline in the whole little town, right? And so I'm going up this hill at like 3 miles per hour with this truck. And I'm like, best case scenario, they let me park it here. I'll ride the bike down to town. I'll try and find somewhere to stay down there. Worst case scenario, I'll come back up and I'll just sleep in the truck in front of the shop.
Yeah.
No big deal. Get up there. They're like, yeah, we can fix it, but we're not going to be able to fix it till tomorrow. And I'm like, perfect. And they're like, I was like, can I keep the truck out front? And they're like, no. And I'm like, perfect. Where can I take it? And they're like, you can probably go down to the town and park it out front of the gas station. Well, I get down to the little gas station. Not a friendly gas station. So I was just like, well, you know what? I'm going to go park it at the burger and Chinese food place.
Oh, perfect. That's a good combo.
Dude, I was eating egg rolls and I had a burger and fries that
Bacon,
night.
egg, and cheese.
Dude, it was awesome, you know? And the little lady is like yelling at me like,
move your truck.
dude, she was awesome. So I walked in there and I was just like, hey, here's my situation. I'm going to buy food. I'm going to buy food.
First and foremost, I will be a customer.
Yes. And if you tell me to move it, I'll move it. Can I leave it here for right now while I walk around? And she was like the sweetest thing. She's like, of course you can, you know, blah, blah, blah. Where are you from? Right. Like she came and sat with me while I was eating, you know.
Oh, no shit.
I was the only one in there.
Yeah.
You know, I think the town population was like 200 or something. And so I noticed a coffee shop as I was coming in and I was just like, it's 6 o'clock at night. I'm about ready for a coffee. You know, I got to still figure out where I'm sleeping tonight. Yeah. You know, am I sleeping in the truck? Am I going to find a hotel? Is there even a hotel even remotely close to me? And I walked over to the coffee shop, pulled on the door, closed. I'm like, damn it. Like the one thing I was really looking forward to right now, and it's still like overcasty and rainy and just cold. And I don't know anyone. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm in the middle of a town that seems like a ghost town. Anyways, there was like this little boutique, like bodega kind of shop next to it. And it was like all the local people could sell their stuff in the store. And so I walk in, there's nobody, there's music playing, lights are on. I'm like, okay, like I'm looking around.
All right.
And I finally like kind of peek into the back and I see 2 ladies like just kind of chilling in the back. And so I walk back there and there was this elderly lady and I think her name was Kim. Okay. was the store owner. And they were like trying to put this display together for this little old lady's like boutique vinaigrettes or something like that she had made herself or seasoned herself. I don't know exactly what she was doing, but she had these balsamic vinaigrettes, and that's what I did now. And I simply just was like, hey, do you guys need a hand putting that together? You know, it's just like some Amazon, IKEA, like shelving unit thing. And they're like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And they're like, you don't mind? And I'm like, I got nowhere to be and nothing to do.
Turns out truck's broke down. I'm stuck here.
Yeah. And so they started asking me like, where are you from? You know, and like, I'm in like very what I would assume would be religious
Bible Belt type shit.
Bible Belt, Texas. And like I got throat and hand tattoos. I talk soft and I'm friendly.
But you have an appearance
still,
around
like,
that part.
Yeah, the guy's wearing all blacks, got a knife on his belt, you know, like maybe this guy's on the run from the law or something, you know, and that actually came into question later on. It was funny.
Oh shit.
So I helped him put this thing together. And as we're putting it together, apparently the old lady was just super open and just like telling me all these things. Apparently she had a couple of strokes. She couldn't walk right anymore.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, I had caught her from falling a couple of times while we were putting this thing together. It was an adventure. But the owner of the shop was just like, why'd you come in here? You know, like,
yeah, what the fuck are you doing
who
here?
are you?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so I ended up telling her, I was just like, oh yeah, I'm driving across country. I'm putting a bike together, you know, all this stuff. I'm heading to DFW. I'm having truck issues. I'm stopped in town waiting till they open up tomorrow and can get that part. And they're like, okay, sweet. And they're like, why'd you come in here though? And I was just like, I was hoping that the coffee shop was attached to this in some way. And they're like, oh, no, they're closed. And then we kept talking for a little bit longer. And they're like, oh, where are you from? And I was like, oh, I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And they're like, really? And she's like, I'll be back. Anyway, she goes next door into the coffee shop and she's talking to the coffee shop owner who is still in there. They're from Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
So she comes out and we start talking and we had like mutual friends through stuff.
Way.
And I'm like, how the hell did you
Holy
end up in this
shit.
small little town? They're like, we threw a dart at a wall kind of thing. And so they ended up getting me a coffee. It was great. And so we finished putting the shelf together. The little old lady started putting like her things on the wall and everything else. And she ends up, I thought she was having another stroke. I just hear bottles crashing. And so I take off running and I'm just like holding her up. And she had like lost her balance and bumped the shelf and it started dumping all of her balsamic vinaigrettes down and everything else. So I ended up staying for a little bit longer than I was planning and helped them clean up the mess of
the balsamic vinaigrette.
Yeah. And I got her a chair and I was like, you can just supervise. You can tell me if you want the bottles in a different place, like just sit right here. Like,
Let me do this,
I
please.
don't need you breaking more things.
Or
you know?
falling down and hurting yourself.
Exactly.
In front of me.
That was my biggest concern really, was just like, I didn't want to be there and like have this woman be hurt and I'm just like some strange guy and cops show up or something like that. And I'm like, I swear,
You're like,
I'm not on the run.
Yeah,
you know?
like everything's cool.
Yeah. And so Kim then reached out to, for the story's sake, because I can't remember all their names right off the top of my head, is, let's say Brittany.
Okay.
Was one of her friends, and she's like, where are you, like Kim asked me, she's like, where are you staying tonight? And I'm like, I have no idea. And I was like, the box truck that's parked out front of the chicken and cheeseburgers, you know, like whatever it is over there, like
that's mine.
The wontons and fries. Like I live in that. And she's like, I'm gonna make a phone call. So anyway, she calls Brittany, and Brittany's married to the sheriff of the town and like all this other stuff. So she's like, you can go park it on her yard. I was like,
holy shit.
Okay, cool. So get the truck, limping it down the road again, you know, get it all the way over to this like little plot of land. And I'm greeted by this guy with a shotgun over his shoulder. And I'm like,
it was
sweet.
like that?
Yeah, it was one of those moments. Yeah. And so I'm just chilling there and like, I'm kind of giggling at it, you know, and he's just like, who are you? And I'm like, well, I'm Austin. He's like, you got ID? And he's like looking at my ID and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you want a background check?
Yeah,
you want
right.
last four of my social? Like, what do you need?
What do you need, bud?
And anyways, he's just like, And then he like walks inside. So the wife wasn't even home. Yeah. So she shows up later and she comes out and I'm just like sitting on the back of the truck at this point. Like I've had a long day. I just want to sit there and like drink a root beer or something.
By yourself. Like,
yeah, I bought a root beer at a Rice Krispie Square from the little bodega thingy, you know? And I was just like sitting on the back of the truck eating that. And I was just like, this is just a deep breath. Like, you wanted this. Mm-hmm. Remember this. You wanted this.
You wanted this adventure.
Yeah.
Here you are.
And
you're living it.
Yep. All of the hardships that come with it. And so I was sitting there and Brittany shows up a little bit later and she like comes out and she starts grilling me with questions, you know, and I'm like, she's like, are you on the run from the cops? I was like, no, not that I know of, you know, like, no, I'm doing this project. You can see the bikes here, you know, everything else. And she's like, what else you got in there? And she's like, I showed her around the truck. She's like, oh, this is pretty cool. She's like, you want a plate? And I didn't know what that meant, you know.
You want food.
And I figured that out, you know. And so she ended up bringing me out like.
Where are you from originally?
Phoenix.
Oh, you're from Phoenix
Yeah.
originally? Okay. Continue. I'm sorry.
And so she's like, you want a plate? And I was just like, no, I got plates and bowls and stuff. Like, I was a little confused, right? I didn't spend much time in the South or nothing like that. So like, I don't really know. The Southwest is very different than the South.
Yeah. The South.
I don't even know if the part of Texas I'm in is like South or South West. It's a modge podge of it. I guess it's a little mix.
I'll get criticized for saying this regardless, but Texas is kind of its own thing.
Texas, the country of Texas is amazing.
It's its own thing.
The country of Texas.
Yes. Like I've lived, Florida, Virginia, Michigan, now California. And there's a big debate. If you talk to anybody that's not from the South, like they'll be like, Virginia's not the South. And I'm like, actually, Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy for a while. Like,
I just had this conversation when I was when I was up in New York. We just had that conversation. I was like, Virginia's the South, and I got a whole history lesson. So
I didn't know until I lived there. But so Southern people are pretty freaking sweet, to be honest. But Texas is its own thing. Like, I've never spent any time there, but I can imagine it's unique. It
is. I like Texas.
I do too.
I like it.
Yeah. I've driven through and enjoyed it. I should say that. But
driven through, it takes 3 days.
Yep. Yep.
But anyway, she brought me out a plate of food, and we sat there and talked, and I answered all her questions as best as I could, and that was that. And then the next morning, I woke up.
Husband never came back outside?
No, I'm pretty sure he was just watching me from the window or something.
Just in there with a shotgun.
For real, dude. Yeah. He's got me in the sights, Next morning, I rolled up to the mechanic shop, got the stuff swapped out that I needed. I forget what I put
What even was
it.
the issue?
I can't remember because it didn't last very long. So they got me up to highway speeds again, and I just kind of zoned out.
You were like, cool, truck's fixed until it's not. Let's go.
Yep. I was just like, we got oil, we got air, we got spark plugs in it.
Fuel, air,
like,
spark. We're good to go.
It's
we're driving.
moving. All right, we're good. Let's go.
We're getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah. It was some like sensor that was making something else trip that was now sending the spark plugs out. So it's like, it's the Triton engine.
Yeah.
That's, you get sometimes those lemons that are the spark plug shooters.
Yep.
And that was one of them.
That's a Ford motor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember 2 days ago, I saw like a V10 Triton engine like badge on the side of a truck. And I was like, dude, I haven't even seen that in forever. You know what I mean? There was like, my buddy's dad had one of those growing up. And I was like, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, the box truck was 1999, 1998.
So you decided you're going to build an all-American FXR and you're going to drive a 1999 box truck.
Ford. Because parts would be readily available.
Yeah.
A Mercedes Sprinter van. I'm not.
That's true.
In Podunk, Texas, where I was, like, there was no way I was getting a Mercedes part.
Right. No, 100%.
So
100%.
I know a Ford you're going to be able to find a Ford part in any corner in Walmart.
Yep.
So that's kind of the idea of why I chose that route. And of course, again, back to the whole, like, I wanted to show other people that it's possible that you don't need $1 million to go do this.
Right.
I saved for a long time to be able to do this.
When did you start thinking about this idea? Was this something you've wanted to do?
When did I start thinking about van life or building a bike?
I would say...
Or not building, but assembling.
I would say, when did you start thinking, like, I'm going to go on the road and do this? Like, I'm going to live on the road. This had to have been...
Oh, yeah, I think I always romanticized... I moved a lot when I was a kid.
Okay.
Like, we're talking like probably 26 or 27 times, it feels like, or something, before I was even 18.
Like that many times?
Yeah, we moved a lot, man.
Were you like a military brat or?
No, we just
moved a lot.
Unfortunate circumstances growing up, So we moved a lot, and yeah, so like I was just always kind of the gypsy.
You were traveling
rolling light, kind of thing. And yeah, when I had the house and the cars, and like I sold my 72 Nova, I sold my 4Runner that I bought. I had extra bikes in the garage that I sold,
Okay.
It felt like everything that I was doing was what I thought I was supposed to. I got the degrees, I got the job, I got the house, I got the cars, I got this, I got that. And it's just like, I don't care about any of this shit. Like, the only thing I cared about was the bikes.
Yeah.
And I started prioritizing experiences over my happiness. I'm not a particularly very happy person. You've met me and the experiences you've had with me. I'm pretty level just across the board. Like,
pretty mellow dude.
This is me excited,
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, I started prioritizing experiences over my happiness, because the happiness will be a byproduct of the experiences that I get to go have. I was smiling, changing those spark plugs, looking at the cows, as I'm ruining my, nice snap-on socket.
Was it a snap-on set?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was an $120 socket.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
It's just a thing, dude. So, yeah, I mean, I guess since I was young, I always, I would go on road trips by myself when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
I would just,
how old are you now?
I'm 31.
You're 31?
Yeah.
Okay. You're wise beyond your years. I'll say that. I just turned 32, so.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. You're wise beyond your years for sure.
I've lived a lot of life, it feels like sometimes. So.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, simple math. I joined the military in 2011. We kind of talked earlier. You said 2010. So I was like, all right, this dude's probably a couple years older than me. Hope you're a year younger.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, man. I'll continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I always guess romanticize the idea of just kind of being full gypsy and just living on the road full time and seeing where life took me that way. And when I had the opportunity to do it, I didn't say no,
Right.
The conversation started where I really, really took it serious instead of just the whole, every once in a while you watch some YouTube videos of some van life nerds out there, doing their thing.
You can just fantasize about doing that.
Yeah. And I say gypsy, not hippie, because I'll still stab you. There's definitely a difference. I'm not some hippie star child.
Yeah, you're I can fight a little bit.
I'll fight. Yeah. Yeah. And so it was I want to say it was May of 23. And we were sitting there having lunch. My family had come over to the house and my mom was talking about retirement because she was still a couple years out. And, it just kind of hit and I was just like, damn, I don't want to spend another 30 years doing this to hope that I feel good enough to go do all these things that I want in the future. I was like, I would much rather go and blow it all and experience it all and do all that. My plan B, I think, is everybody else's plan A. It's my plan B is I'll just get a job after.
Yeah.
If this doesn't work out, oh well, I'll just go get a job. That's my plan B is I think most people's plan A. And so it was just, I kind of viewed things a little bit differently in that sense. I'm a self-made person as far as everything that I got right now and how I support myself and continue to go on this adventure. I live in an office right now. I don't have a door. I don't have a closet. I got access to a garage, but I live in an office right now.
Where are you living right now?
In Buckeye, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah.
In an office?
In an office.
How did that come to be?
Cheap rent.
Really?
$400. Yep.
That's fucking legit.
So yeah, it's just the living space is about the same size as my box truck. So. Okay. But I got access to running water, which is really nice because I didn't have that in the box truck. So,
right.
But yeah, it was just mom talking about retirement. And I was just dang, do I enjoy what I'm doing right now enough to want to do it for the next 20 to 30 years to be able to go do what I want afterwards or hope that I feel good enough and I don't get sick in between now and then, or I don't get hurt between now and then where I can do that. Or if I have a family, which is of course the goal for me, I'd like to, I've found in the amount of solitude that I've spent by myself alone that this life really is meant to be shared.
Right.
And I'd like that one day. That'd be cool. I didn't have a wife, still don't have a wife, don't got kids, at least ones that I don't know about. And I'm just kidding. I'm not, there's no kids out there. But when else am I going to have an opportunity to just go and nobody's going to tell me no, or I don't have to take other people into consideration to do it, and it was just everything kind of lined up and we left lunch that day and I was just fuck it.
I'm doing this.
And we're talking the next day, called my realtor, got the house listed.
The next day?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
Wrote my resignation letter for work. Like that was it, and started listing everything I owned for sale. Started, like I was saying earlier, I had my friends worried about me because I couldn't sell stuff fast enough. I was just giving it away at one point.
Oh, that's one of the suicide watch
Yeah,
things.
so like everybody, like I had people
ask, care, treat. Like, is your friend giving all this stuff away?
I had people literally showing up at my house like, "Are you good?" And then they saw me smiling, and they're like, "That's rare to see Austin actually smiling,
this excited about something."
Yeah,
holy shit, dude.
Like in a really good place mentally.
Yeah.
And spiritually even, you know, I say it all the time, read, ride, stretch, repeat, you know, and that's like my body, mind, and spirit. Do it again.
Okay.
And, for me, that's what I wanted to just chase, is just experiences. I wanted to do as much of it I could on 2 wheels. I wanted to read every book that I could possibly read. I do yoga almost every day.
Would you like just do it by yourself, or if you're down here in Ocean Beach, will you find a studio, or?
Most of the time it was just my yoga mat right next to my lowrider S in the back of the box truck. First thing when I woke up, dude, you know, in between my toolbox and my bike, I would be sitting there doing like the crouching dog or whatever, you know, like I did a lot of like guided ones that were like YouTube friendly. Hey, are you a beginner at doing yoga? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And then they kick your ass for an hour. Mm-hmm. Great. It's awesome.
Is it?
Oh, I feel so good now. Yeah.
I have to look into that.
Oh yeah. And I mean, you got to think, like I'm driving for anywhere from 4 to 8 to 12 to, I just did a rip not too long ago. Where I drove out to New York, not just flew out for like the Indian Larry.
Okay.
But back in June, I drove all the way to New York.
Okay.
And I was picking up parts along the way.
Where'd you go in New York? Anywhere cool?
I don't know. It's New York City, man.
Oh, so you went to New York City?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was asking. Like,
I went up to, there's Magnum.
Okay.
It does like brake lines and clutch lines and oil lines and stuff like that. So.
Okay. I've got family up in like upstate New York, so I'm like familiar with the Buffalo area, and that's a cool part of the country, man. I don't know if you've been up there. Like outside of Buffalo, it's rural. Like it really is, and there's like the rolling hills. It reminds me a lot of like the Smoky Mountains up there. And if I agreed more with some of the politics up there, that would be like a retirement location for me. But it's just beautiful country up there. I don't know how much time you spent.
Man, that's the thing. It feels like whenever I'm going somewhere or whenever I get somewhere, it's just like, it's hard to turn it off. Mm-hmm. You know, like I feel like I have to be in motion or I'm stagnant, you know? No, and that's something that I've been really, really working on. And especially lately, because I haven't been going really too far, you know? So like this trip to New York or coming out here just to pick up parts, like they could have easily shipped them.
No, dude, but they
could have like American Suspension. I had already been there in person and verified on a couple different occasions that they are exactly what they say they are. Yep. And everything is made in-house there. Like I had done all that verification already. They could have easily saved me the trip. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if I didn't.
Right.
Like I was itching to get on the road.
Yeah. And that's a part of what you're doing right now. Like that's a part of the adventure. You're doing a bike build. Yes. But I think you're looking for that adventure at this point, you know?
Well, it's the experience.
Experience is probably a better word. Yeah. That might be more what I was kind of trying to convey, but I think it's fucking rad, dude. I made a video fucking around right here a week ago or 4 days ago, whatever it was. And I was like, hey man, I got a calendar. You guys fucking let me know when you can fit in. And you were like, Friday.
That's it. That's all I sent you.
It was Friday. And I was like, you got to understand how many fucking people messaged me and were like, fucking Tuesday, and Tuesday's tomorrow or whatever. You know what I mean? I was like, seriously? And you were like, yeah, I'll be in town. I was like, all right, well, I need to message Doug and make sure this is going to work. But like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. That's a part of the adventure because I didn't know what podcast I was doing. You know what I mean? For the following week. And now a guy that I met, I don't know if you remember this. I remember meeting you at my bike show because
I was in front of the Saddleman tent.
Yes.
I still had the RP fairing on my lowrider, yeah.
And we had kind of had like some blocked off parking for the bike show, and you pulled in. Do you remember this?
Yeah, and you guys told me it was going to be $20 to park there, and I was like, "Get fucked."
I remember. I'm so glad you remember this, and I'm so glad we can talk about this now because you have to hear it from my side a little bit, right? Like, we had a bike show and we had like cones, and then nobody gave a fuck about the cones. And this is the first bike show I've ever done, and people are just pulling in, and I'm like, "This dude's got a sick ass fucking bike." I'm like, "Hey, bro, I think I think I was like super respectful about it. I don't think I was.
Probably until you told me it was $20 and I told you to get fucked. And I was just like, I'll just go park somewhere else.
You were cool about it, but like,
I wasn't like,
no,
fuck
but
you, man. Yeah.
I was like, there was so many people coming throughout the day that were just parking there. And I was like, hey guys, this is the bike show parking. And it's, we spent $4,000 on trophies. It's $20 to park here. And the money's, I'm a fucking 2-man show. You know what I mean? Like, I'm coming out of pocket to put these things on. So it's $20. You got a really cool bike if you like to park here, and you're like, I'm not going to spend the $20. You moved your bike like 8 feet over. It was outside of the cones, But that, I remember meeting you there, and I almost didn't want to bring that up.
No, yeah, that was funny. Like,
yeah,
I showed up on a bike that you would expect to be in the show.
I totally assumed that you were entering the show.
Yeah, I don't really do shows, man.
It's not your thing. No. Yeah,
I don't. So that's the thing, man. Like, I got a buddy John back in Phoenix, and like, I just sold him the engine out of the dirt bike dyna.
Yeah.
I put my bikes together and I share them with folks. Not because I want people to be like, oh my gosh, you have the coolest bike ever. You're so cool because your bike is cool. I share my bike because I'm like, I like this.
This is fun.
You like this?
Yes.
I like this. Let's
look
friends,
at this. Let's talk about this thing we made.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I enjoy about shows. It's an opportunity for people to show off something that they made. You know what I mean? And
that's where I differ is like, how do you judge one person's bike versus others? Like my buddy John's got insane money into the powertrain on his bike.
Yep.
Absolutely clapped looking fucking thing, beat chips in the paint, dents in the tank, missing, parts of the fenders, but he just goes out and just fucking rides.
Yep.
And he doesn't care about anything. Like, he's not looking for somebody to come up and be like, man, you got a sick bike. It's just like, he's just out there riding, like my lowrider S, it's way louder than I personally would want my personal bike to be.
When you mean louder, you mean like brighter, attracts more attention.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the volume of the bike, but just
no. I mean, it's loud too. But
yeah. But when you're speaking to loud, you mean
when it shows
visual.
up, there's the presence with it.
Exactly.
And like, I've definitely kind of like it's cool. It's not my style anymore.
Right.
I liked the panel work. I liked the lace work. Like, I liked that stuff for a while, but it's definitely kind of evolved into like a more, I don't even know if it's a mature taste or if just my taste in general is just
It might just
changing.
be that your tastes have developed.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me. Like, when before we started the company, like, I was trying to keep up with the Joneses, 100%. And you'll fucking go broke doing that, dude.
I know what spending money on bikes looks like.
Yeah, so. Like it's fucking expensive. And we had the conversation yesterday in the parking lot. Like, I have a really nice gas station bike. Like, people see my bike at the gas station, they're like, that thing's fucking sick. I have a nice bike, but I don't have a fucking born free winter bike. I don't fucking care to have one because and I was telling you, motorcycles are like dogs. Like, I like dogs, but I really only like my dog. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with motorcycles. Like, I like bikes and I really only like my bike, Dude,
and I totally understand that.
Like, and
sometimes I don't even like my bikes though.
100%. After Sturgis fucked my bike, I didn't want anything to do with it. I was so fucking exhausted.
And it's not that there's anything wrong with the bike. It's just, I want to do something different, or my ideas have changed about a direction that I want to take it, or something like that. It's not, again, and I guess that's kind of where the thing with the shows is for me, is it's like, I think, like, I got to see the hardware that you're giving away for the winners. Like, those are freaking cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But I don't ever want to have to, like, I've been asked to judge at a couple of these events and stuff, and don't ask me to judge.
Yeah.
How am I going to tell you that yours is cooler than his?
You're right.
It's like, I should be able to, if you let me interview every single one of the people that like enters into the show, I'd pick that way because I would ask them, how much do you love your bike?
Yeah, and that's something, so kind of, I think the trophies that we do, and it's easy to look at those trophies and be like, oh man, these fucking guys spent fucking a shit ton of money on it and they're just buying out these fucking trophies. It's not the case. I'm an enlisted dude in the military. I have a limited budget. You know what I mean? And the other 50% of Shifter Crew is a blue collar motherfucker that works in a factory. Do you guys think that we came up with $8,000 of our own money to do this? Because we fucking didn't. We talked to our friends. We made this happen. But the trophies are a representation of how serious we take our love for this shit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We want people to know that we appreciate you taking your time to show your work of art to other people and to take your time and spend it with us. Mm-hmm. That's what we want. And when I'm looking at bikes, because I've been riding since 2016, I'm not fucking Jeff Holt. Jeff Holt's the gold standard. Okay. Like Jeff Holt, fucking Jace Hudson, fucking, I'm forgetting people, John Jessup, these guys, like they are the generation before me that have paved the way for this to happen. My way of kind of like trying to embrace what they have done is I want to see motorcycles that people have felt as passionately about as I do about mine. Mm. And I'm not looking for, I don't want a fucking shop build. I don't want the guy who's got 80 grand and takes his bike to a shop and says, make it look like this bike.
But what if he really, really loves it?
That's great. It's not my style.
It's not your style.
Exactly. It's my show. Not, you know what I mean? But I want to look at a bike and be able to talk to this dude about it. Mm-hmm. And he'd be able to tell me about it. And look, and like you said earlier, how can you say, you know, like part for part, this is that. I want to see a guy that's like probably touched everything on this bike. Like he can tell you about it. Mm-hmm. He can go look at that suspension and tell you about it. Like whatever it may be, I'm not saying one brand is better than the other, but he can tell you about the brand because that means he did research into that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
He took it serious.
He took it serious, you know, and I'm
as serious as these, you know, trophies that you're giving away and stuff like that. I get it.
Yeah. Like I just want the same, I want people that are passionate, dude. Mm-hmm. I don't want rich people coming to my shows. Like not to say it like that, you know, I'm joking a little bit, but like that's what we're looking for, you know, is guys that
got the heart in it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You rode your fucking bike here because that's how you get around. You know what I mean? Like my bike's fucking 48,000 miles. I ride it every fucking day.
I drove here, guys. I'm not going to front. I'm not a real biker.
Oh, that fucking conversation, dude. But like, that's the stuff. You know what I mean? If it's pristine, it's got 900 miles on it, and it's a 2021, it's probably not the show for you. You know what I mean? It's your style. That's great, but it's what I'm looking for. You know? Yeah.
You're looking for the everyday bike that's just bitching.
I want the guy who is like, this is silly. I want the guy who's like a family guy, right?
You're getting the cheat codes right now, everybody at home. This is how you win.
This is how you win. But my ideal situation, like the guy who's fucking got a family, he's working fucking hard, and he wins one of our trophies, and he comes home, and his kid's like, "Daddy, how'd you get that?" That's the guy's, and he's like, "I fucking worked for this. I fucking made this." That's the guy I want to win.
You know, all that time I ignored you.
Exactly. Yeah. So fuck you, kids. I'm not going to your t-ball game. Like, I coach my kids' t-ball game, by the way. No, but
I gotta get new risers, no teeth,
right.
No braces this year.
Yeah, right. Go ahead and don't get hurt this week because my insurance can't afford it. But like, that's what I want, man. I don't know. It's those trophies to me are something cool, and it's I want to create something that somebody wants to have. And this isn't a shot at anybody. I'm tired of seeing fucking derby covers for trophies. That's just the amount of fucking time and effort that I put into my motorcycle. A derby cover, I'd be like, oh, my fuck am I do this? You know what I mean?
No, and like, you know, to each their own. If that's if somebody's super proud about the derby covers they're giving 100%, away, and their heart's in the right place, then awesome. Yeah. You know, who am I to judge, man?
You're 100% accurate. Yeah,
I'm just the nutbag trying to put an FXR together, and I'm wrong about things all the time, and I get humbled by internet folks on the regular telling me that I said the wrong thing about.
You're like, I'm sorry, I'm not a specialist. I'm just trying to do this thing I like.
And that, you know, it was funny. I recently ran into one in New York because I had misquoted something about the front ends.
Like, man, I
had been up for like 20 something hours working on the FXR to get it ready. And then I was editing the video and reshooting things and doing all this just to get the video together to post it. And the recording, you can kind of hear how tired I was in the background. but I was like kind of reading my script loosely, very loosely. And I said that the FXRs all came with a 39 millimeter. And I'm like, I know that they don't, but that's what I said. And it was just like,
and you're like, fucking
my FXR that I am working on, this one specifically came with a 39 millimeter from the factory. But yeah, so I got corrected on that real quick. And it was funny. We started talking and he was just like, you do know, like these ones came with this one and that one. And I was like, oh yeah, man. Like that was just me not
in the moment,
not getting words correct.
Some guys like, you know what? I've waited all day for this, and I'm finally going to correct Austin. Here we go.
You know, bring it on. Correct me, educate me, teach me. I'm not an FXR expert. I'm not a Harley mechanic. I'm not certified by anybody to be doing what I'm doing. I just put in the effort.
Right.
That's it.
Fuck, dude. Fuck. Like but you've taken it to such a far level. Like you've taken, I have this passion about these things, and now I'm going to go get on the road and I'm going to do it. Yeah. So you can kind of downplay yourself all you want. People are looking Austin, at you. Dude. Nah, man.
I'm just Austin.
You're committed, bro.
Well, I'm committed, yeah. But it doesn't make me anything special. I'm just Austin, dude. Like I'm just a guy doing some crazy thing that he came up with and thought would be fun, and just trying to enjoy it as best I can and be better than I was yesterday. And that's it, dude. That's all I'm trying to do. When I say I'm just Austin, I'm just me. I'm unapologetically myself. I'm not anything. I don't front to be anything that I'm not. Like what you see is what you get. Who you're talking to right now is exactly who I am at my core.
I'm going to be the same guy tomorrow.
I spent a lot of time alone thinking about who is Austin. Mm-hmm. There's nobody else to talk to on the road, you know? At least there wasn't in my situation.
Yeah.
And I've done all this sober, and I haven't been romantically involved with anyone, like
the whole time.
How
long have you been sober for?
Coming up on 2 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you just like, man, I don't need this?
It wasn't
like for what?
It was a square peg in a circle hole kind of thing. It was just it just wasn't fitting in my life anymore. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that was conducive to the goals that I was trying to reach. And so when I set out on this whole adventure, like I decided that I was going to do it sober. I was going to do it single. Mm-hmm. I wanted complete clarity as far as like my mental, because I was about to do something so against what everyone had ever told me that I should probably be doing with my life, or the direction that I thought was ingrained in my brain as far as like what I was supposed to be doing, these self-appointed expectations that nobody asked me to do, but it's just what I thought because of what society has taught us that I needed to do. Like I needed to approach this with absolute clarity. I didn't need emotional confusion. I didn't need to be confused by a substance dependency, anything like that. I wanted to approach it with 100% clarity that what I was deciding to do was of my own decision and my own doing and my own choice and freedom.
You didn't want to be like, hey, I was drunk in 2021 and I decided to get on the road.
Yeah.
Like that was
one of the things that when I first got sober, I kept every single promise that I ever made drunk. Every single promise to help someone, to do something for someone, everything. And that was a real sobering thing too. Like in the first couple steps of my sobriety, I kept every single promise that I said I would do.
Oh shit. So are you like going to meetings? Are you?
No,
you're just doing it.
Yeah. I just decided like, hey, it's not working. Let's change it up. Let's do something different. And here we are 2 years later. So
that was like a piece of advice I got in it must have been 2017, 2018. We're sitting at dinner and I was telling my buddy Todd, like, man, I'm not happy. Like this is going on. And I fucking poured my heart out about all this fucking stupid bullshit I had going on, right? Just fucking excuses and excuses. And he sat there and listened to me the entire time. And he goes, so make a change. And that was it. That was his great piece of advice. I'll never fucking forget it. You know, like if you're not happy about your circumstances, your environment, all this shit, some people are stuck in that spot and I feel for them, but make a change.
It could be a small thing.
It really could. Know? Fuck, man.
I write about things all the time. I write about like where my mind's at with certain things. If you go back and, read from the beginning of the adventure and kind of read how I've developed the mindset I have now and how just kind of, okay, whatever, like
how you become this person.
Yeah. And
that's something that I've noticed about you that I really appreciate is, and most people are guilty of it. And I haven't seen you do this at all. You don't say anything negative about anyone. Ever. I don't know if you know that about yourself, but you don't say Me and you have had a couple conversations, and I've been like kind of fired up. I don't know if you recall that, but you're like, yeah, man, I don't get involved.
No, I'm Switzerland a lot of the time. Yeah. You know, it's just like, who am I to have an opinion?
Fuck.
You know, who am I to have an opinion? Is my opinion that, you know, important to the conversation or to someone that's not in the room or anything like that? No.
And how does it actually affect you?
It doesn't.
Exactly.
No, and I think that comes from a lot of years of really being very negative towards myself and how I talk to myself internally. Is if I talk to myself this way and this is how I feel, why would I ever want to do that to someone else?
Right.
Or be in a position where I'm accomplice to that. So it's why I just choose to just not be negative, or I just don't. I had a great conversation with my buddy Mark the other night about this. We stayed up till like 2 a.m. talking, just philosophy and ideas and life. And, one of those things was like how we speak to ourselves and giving ourselves grace and patience and forgiveness and just internally in ourselves. So, and one of those things we talked about was like how we speak to ourselves. And I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of all that negativity from myself. And, you know, other people have, not everybody likes me. That's fine. I don't really care. Whatever, you know, even my worst enemies will die one day, you know, like I'm going to die. You're going to die. Congratulations. We all die. That's the best revenge. You know, life will even it out. So in the end, it doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah.
So
we're such a speck on this.
If I'm not contributing something that is positive in nature or is not something that I want to own as far as my words and what I had said, if I'd said something negative and hurtful, I have to now own that. I have to take accountability for the words and the impacts that they have. You know, I've talked about it often. The only 3 things that we truly own in this life are our words, our actions, and our thoughts. Everything else is just borrowed. My bike, it's borrowed. The house I live, borrowed. The truck I'm driving, borrowed. My friendships, borrowed.
Wow.
So if I can't own the words and thoughts that I have, that then translate into the actions that I do, and it's not a positive one or one that spreads good into the world, then I don't really want to contribute to it.
Fuck, dude. That's a beautiful way of looking at it, though. Seriously.
It's a hard way to look at it.
I imagine.
It's easier to jump in on the bash train.
It's easier to be emotional. That's something I've had a couple conversations about this recently, like in kind of growing as a person that I'm trying to be and learning some things about myself. My initial reaction to things is not usually the one that I should go with.
You gotta bring the 5-second rule into it, man.
Like the emotional fucking thought process that I initially have, I probably shouldn't fucking do that. You know what I mean?
used to have a temper, dude. Surprisingly, I used to have a pretty gnarly temper. And I implemented this idea, and I tell people all the time about it. I've written about it before and like, hey, this is how you can implement it. It used to be the 15-second rule, but I've slowly worked it down to 5. If you ask yourself, you know, somebody cuts you off in traffic, somebody says something rude to you, somebody bumps into you, somebody sends you a text message that you have the choice to reply to or not, you know? And in that moment, you feel an emotional pull in whatever direction that might be. If that's frustration, if it's sadness, if it's something like that, if it's anger, which is usually the typical response in some of those situations. You know, you feel as if you have been wronged by someone moving their car in front of you. You know, like in that moment, ask yourself, does this person's actions, does what they did right now, this person I don't know who drives a really ugly Prius, you know, does their actions dictate the trajectory of my life? Circle yes, circle no. You got 5 seconds. And generally the answer is no. The guy cutting you off in traffic is just trying to get home like you are. He's just kind of a ditz or a dingbat about it.
He just went in a more aggressive manner than you did.
You know, he's just moving his car from one lane to another.
Yep.
Just like you do.
Yeah. It's the other day. This is kind of a funny story.
It's a funny way to simplify it though, right? It's just like,
but it's
how
true.
You react is you can train yourself on preparing to react to things before the preparation for it. You know, you're not reacting anymore. you expect there to be, like, Marcus Aurelius says it. I'm super into the Stoics. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius says it, like, the opening statement in his book is like, you will go out and meet idiots and cruel people and rude people and disgusting people and dirty people and like all these things. He's like, you will go out into the world and this is what you're going to experience every single day, and you are to be unbothered.
Oh.
Like, you are supposed to continue on with the mission of being good.
Good luck.
Like, that is the opening statement in Meditations.
Really?
From a guy 2,000 years ago.
He had it figured out. We had I had a moment the other day. This is kind of funny. I was getting my kid out of the shower, right? Fucking dry him off. He's 4. He can say full sentences. He can talk. He can communicate. And a lot of his stuff it's very emotional because he's fucking 4 years old, right? So I get him dried off, and I'm trying to put his pajamas on. He's got long pajamas, and I don't know if I didn't dry him off good or what, but like it was hard to get the pants on, right? So I'm trying to get his pants on. He like falls down. His pants come off. I'm trying to get him back on. He stands back up and he looks at me. He's like, I'm getting frustrated. And I was like, thank you so much for
self-awareness. Yeah.
Like, I was
Attaboy.
so relieved, dude. Like, but he's 4 and he told me that. And I'm like, all right, good shit, dude. Like, you're telling me, you're letting me know, thank you.
There's times working on this FXR even, like, or especially because it's like a Mr. Potato Head bike, right? Mm-hmm. I got 4 different generations of bikes. I got shovel head parts. Mm-hmm. I got Evo parts. I got twin cam parts. I got M8 parts on this bike.
Yeah.
It's a modge podge of different things to try and make it work. Mm. So fitment of aftermarket parts on top of aftermarket parts. I can't
fucking imagine.
On top of aftermarket parts is...
None of this shit was meant to work together.
No. Fuck. It was meant to work with the OEM application, but a lot of those have, changed as far as the applications that I'm trying to use them for, or the OEM part wasn't made here originally, so then I can't use it. So now I have to find the replacement for it. So that's like the whole thing. But I found that there have been moments where I get quite frustrated. Mm-hmm. And in a previous life, or in, just years ago, if that was the case, I was throwing wrenches through walls. I was breaking stuff. And like,
yep.
It solved nothing. Now I have more problems. Now I have to go get drywall patches. Now I got to put a flag up so it covers all the holes. If you go back way far into my videos and stuff that I was posting back in like 21, like you see all these flags on the walls. There was holes everywhere behind those. And I just didn't want to patch them. That was just laziness. But if I feel that frustration, much like your kid is, I'm getting frustrated, and you can identify that right away and you don't let it take control, and you just set the tools down wherever it's at. I don't care if you got to finish that bike that night. Take a freaking breather. Yeah. Come back to it later. You're probably a grumpy plant. Did you get sunshine today? Did you eat food? Did you drink water? If the answer is to no to any of those, you should probably go do that first.
One of those is probably your
take a deep breath and then come back to it.
How did you because you were saying like you used to have a temper. What happened for you to develop this mindset?
I got tired of patching walls and stuff like that.
No shit.
Yeah, it was just I found out that
start doing yoga.
That actually did help a lot, dude.
Did it? I believe it.
So sobriety helped, yoga helped, and then just really diving into books and reading, and not only just books about motorcycles. Like I'll read a climber's book, like it's on a casual Tuesday read, at a coffee shop, just like
here we go,
Evo, and just read them just because I'm trying to understand things, but.
Right.
No, I think really diving into books as far as like what I was reading changed my mind. Like, again, the 3 things you can control, right? The 3 things you have ownership over: your mind, your thought, and your actions. And the first one you got to take control over is your thoughts. Once you control your thoughts, then you can control your mouth. And you control your mouth, the actions generally come with it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we've just crushed an hour and a half. And let's leave the people with that, brother.
No, it just means we got to talk again.
Yes, sir. And thank you so much for coming on, man. Like, you're truly a fucking inspiration. Like, I know that you're going to be like, hey, I'm just Austin, but keep doing what you're doing, man. And the next time you're fucking San Diego, Let's do this again.
Hopefully next time I'm out here is on a bike, because it's miserable to drive out here.
It is.
So
you'll get good at lane splitting if you come out here on a bike too.
I've been out here a couple times lane splitting. It's a good time. So
fuck
all
yeah,
right, man. I appreciate it.
Nah, man. Thank you so much for coming.
Hey, good luck on the show, man. It's gonna be awesome.
We'll keep you up to date.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
sure
bro.
I'll see photos. So
Fuck yeah. Thank you.
of course.